Welcome to our symposium in Toronto. Country delegations are here from all parts of the globe. We are proud to gather here for 3 days of discussion on the topic of women's ability to move on from their position of powerlessness to a position of greater control in making choice that add dignity and respect in their lives, while at the same time allowing them the opportunity to be educated and employed in meaningful work. Today's symposium topic is presented by Jessie Yuan, who had been inspired by Winston Choi's novel in a manner that draws our attention to a series of social problems related to women's powerlessness. Welcome all the delegates from the National Organization for Women. Hope you can agree and support my view, and to propose provision for additional protection of women's rights with UN human rights. Winston Choi's novel, The Jade Peony, reflects the extent to which 3 different Chinese immigrant women are rendered powerless both in China as well as in Vancouver, BC. The novel shines a strong light on a serious issue in the context of the 1913s. Women's powerlessness in the fact of old feudal social organizations of family life that give precedence to men and to some older members of families. Each of the 3 Chinese women in the novel endures much suffering due to the lack of freedom or power to make choices for themselves. They lack this kind of agency to be in control of their own lives and instead become victims of political force as well as victims of psychological, cultural, and social abuse or exploitation. We are not Chinese immigrants live in the 1913s in Vancouver, BC, yet the fictional world of Winston Choi's novel presents problems we can identify and recognize in various parts of the globe today. Life may be somewhat better for women in Canada and elsewhere today, but in some parts of the world, women still endure suffering and lack the freedom to make their own choice and live with dignity and respect. The novel shows what happens when men and women exploit or repress others based on older feudal thought. The consequences are victimization of helpless women who look for protection but cannot find it from their husbands, and the social stigma that women are bound to suffer where they don't meet the convention of sexual conduct and the racial or ethnical purity within conservation societies. In this video, I will focus on identifying the contemporary echo of those problems presented in the novel and then go on to show just how seriously there needs to be a shift in cultural as well as in ethics. So at the end, the victimization of women as powerless individuals. People like to blame cultural attitudes for their prejudices. However, there are some limits to the influence of culture in our decision-making and our treatment for others. Let's see one quote from the book here. Very early on in life, Grandmother Popo became a victim of the cultural prejudice against females in the old country of China. As a girl, Grandmother Popo's parents could not count on her to earn money from the dirty and hard work common on a farm. Premature delivery leads to her father leaving his wife and daughter and giving her a tag of a cursed girl. Ironically, because of class prejudice and sexism, Grandmother Popo was considered unworthy as a baby, and therefore they did not bother to bind her feet. Not having her feet bound would have given Grandmother Popo as a child a bit active. But in this case, the baby and young girl she grew into were simple without value until she could be sold. The family of origin is a significant factor influencing one's thinking. People were born to being just as original as the prejudiced others of their past. This fact will affect the quantity and quality of children. Also, it will have long-term consequences for sex-racial imbalance. Thanks to improvements in medical technology, parents can now detect fetal sex. It can be easy to find female fetuses before they are born and abort them if parents are unwanted, so that families can only have male babies. Many years later, the rate of male births ends up being higher than the rate of female births. A cohort made up of many more men than women means that a large group of men may end up unmarried and childless. Therefore, society will face another problem, which is population imbalance as they age. Let's go through some examples of the fetal thought preference for sons. Men in their old age in countries like India and China that lack national government-controlled old age pension schemes will meet potential destitution. This is also especially true in places like Afghanistan, where those who hold political power use religion to force women to marry at very young age and against their wills too. At the same time, such young girls and women are forbidden to attend school or receive an education, which sometimes result in them being sold and exploited in the sexual trafficking networks. Of course, they then have to face a higher prevalence of sexual transmitted diseases too, as their medical well-being is not considered any more important to their lost dignity and respect in such society. Original feminists' fetal thought can impact the children's perception for generating a vicious circle of some preference. Class prejudice and sexism in society often take away the educational opportunity of women. The social and cultural preference for sons in China lead Popo to have no chance of getting a higher education level. Here is a quote from the book. As the older one in this family, grandmother Popo was sold by her own family to another family in exchange for money. As a young girl under 10 years old, she was supposed to be a student learning at school yet. She had no chance to be a student. But because of class prejudice and sexism, grandmother Popo is focused to be sold as a house daughter and learns to be a servant. The first concubine in this family actually threatened to break her fingers if she didn't understand fast enough. No chance of getting any protection while in service, and that fictional word has echoes of being real even day. There are too many girls to be disliked, abandoned, and sold by their families because of their gender and because females have been stuck with a tag of uselessness. Women are always neglected in their health and education because of their inferior states. Nowadays, many families are very reluctant to spend money on their daughter's medical issue. Also, the prejudice against females being a leader or an administrator in some countries. Fewer opportunities in the job market and lower earning in their adult working lives. Women aren't getting promoted to managerial positions, which is the first step towards their leadership. Therefore, due to the biased opinions, discrimination, and disregard for equity and ethics in relation to women in administration, women then end up stuck in low-level positions and prevented from advancing. Women in France were allowed to vote and stand for elections in 1944. In Switzerland, it was just available for women to vote in referendums in 1971. And in Japan, women are still not available to be a leader in the company. The attitude and the default positive of the government reinforce the idea that women should have a lower status than men. As a group with nothing to lose, women are easily to be sensitive and tender and let their lives be controlled by others, make them cock down. Women must become the appendage of husband who cannot be self-sufficient. I found these two quotes for this point from the book. Stepmother, who is the second wife in this family, is always docile, never daring to challenge the older woman in the family on these basic points of dignity and respect owed to a mother, as if being a poorly educated woman diminishes her status forever in this family. She is afraid of losing her family should she dare to speak out rebelliously, and she is always upset with her husband who never stand up for her when the grandmother Popo embarrasses and ruthlessly insults her. Older society thought that men should be able to control women, and a good way to control a person means denying them formal education. Girls who cannot get an education will later miss out on many job opportunities and have to remain at home in service to men, families, and their aged elders too. Stuck with being an appendage, many unhappy housewives have later on blamed their husbands for not putting their mothers in their place. In some religions, like Islam, husbands are allowed to beat their wife to maintain family harmony. Women need to get consent from their husbands if they want a job in Iran and Qatar. Moreover, women need to obtain their husband's permission to apply for a passport. To a housewife, the husband should have been a protective umbrella. But sometimes they become men who kill any hope of a woman being able to pursue her goals and dreams, or even have basic independence from having to serve men. Society often grants higher status for men than for women, and it follows that tolerance for men runs wider than it does for women. This is particularly true when it comes to judging men and women in sexual relationship outside of marriage. Let's see the quote I found in the book. Miss Lim's daughter Mei Yin falls in love with a Japanese boy Kazu, but they break up because of China-Japan War. According to the social context at that time, Japan was invading China's territory, and all Chinese and overseas Chinese were expected to hate the Japanese for their military and political actions. When the Chinese girl Mei Yin falls in love with a Japanese boy, nobody can admit she even got pregnant with the Japanese boy, and Mei Yin herself felt the pressure to keep it a big secret. Add to these facts, Mei Yin is in a love-long desperation mode when she finds her Japanese boyfriend has lost courage and back out of his commitment to her. She then chooses to carry out an abortion by herself, losing her own life in the bloody and botched process. Several decades later, many abortion accidents still occur thanks to shady backstreet abortion operators. In Canada, people think we are better than the USA because currently it is still illegal for women to get an abortion in the USA. However, in 1969, the Canadian government allowed and made abortion legal, even though there is still a large opposing voice on this issue. A major problem here stems from insufficient doctors to carry out abortions. Women who are pregnant and want to have an abortion will remain on a long waiting list, but they do not have enough time to wait and succeed in getting a safe abortion. Also, for some personal reasons, medical concerns, or facts outside of the person's control, including transportation difficulties, limited access to accurate pregnancy tests, or desperate domestic circumstances, pregnant women face other obstacles to safe abortions. And at the same time, women who want to get abortions in the USA also came to Canada, expanding the waiting list to do abortions. So many of them choose to do it by themselves or go to the backstreet abortionists. These unprofessional operators use coat hangers, as Mei Yin used knitting nails in the novel, to replace the proper and stereotypical tools. These ways seriously harm women's lives. A Canadian study found out there are more than 14% of women who have an abortion access problem, but there is no problem for men to get a ligation operation. Unequal access to abortion reflects that society is more friendly to males than females. All this above, we are talking about the detailed issue based on women's powerlessness. So let us think about a question. How can we solve it? Fortunately, cultural attitudes can change, especially when youngs reject the old and the prejudiced way of thinking and show their love and respect. The ultimate effect is liberating to women who were previously trapped in their terrible marital or family status. This is a quote from the book. Grandmother Popo breathes life into the old prejudices against women by mistreating, devaluing, and oppressing her son's second wife, the young mother. As Sek Leung gives his mother the carving of the jade peony, his treasure from grandmother Popo, we can see the respect and honor owed to his actual mother in the true sense. No need for that undignified title of stepmother to her own children. He sees his mother as a rightful owner of this important treasure. Accordingly, little boy Sek Leung is his mother's savior, letting her know she is also deserves to be cherished. Following Sek Leung's action, his mother hugs him to show this moment as a time she is endowed with tremendous power. As mother to the narrator Sek Leung, she is the one who receives, from her own son, the jade peony carving, something grandmother Popo didn't seem fit to give stepmother. Her son rebels against the old prejudices and make a gift of this treasure to his mother, leaving her filled with self-confidence, pride, and dignity. This book reflects the inner workings of a housewife on the receiving end of much cruelty. As women and mothers, they focus more on their families, but also need the attention of someone who cared about them in their family. Without this basic care and respect within the family, women can start to feel as worthless as the treatment they receive, so they long for being wished for to get respect and can feel the love of someone they cared about. A well-known and popular Chinese film, The End of Endless Love, reflects the incredible difference that a mother's love and commitment to her children can have on the quality of life and the dignified survival. In this film, a woman or a mother who was abused for a long term by her frequently drunk husband seems to be powerless to make any change for the better in her life. This is until she noticed her husband about to employ their pubescent daughter while she was in the shower. The sight of this danger and vulnerability launches the woman's act of courage and patience. She kills her husband in order to protect her daughter. The passing on of the curving is significant because the color of passion it represents is undiminished by time. It is the symbol of love, and also has all the beauty and light that one would treasure. Women are often very resilient, sometimes more so than men. Society needs to be more supportive towards women when they have nobody in their family or social network to commit an act of courage or passion for them or on their behalf. Such vulnerable women needs a place to shout and get some support and guidance. Away from the storm that suffocates and hurts, even kills them at times. Hope I can fight for more women's rights through these above reasons and information for women. Back when humans paid more attention to breeding, women who can be pregnant occupy a higher social level. After that period, humans started to rely on farming, catching, and hunting. Patrilineality replaced matrilineality. However, patrilineality should not be used as the measure for determining a person's worth. Women should not have to live their lives based on the whims and the preference of men, or of those women who conveniently seek to uphold old prejudices against women. In conclusion, society should take out the useless tag attached to girls and women, and uphold their value as free and individual persons. No woman should have to be like stepmother confronting her husband with the sad question, "I choose? I was bought." This is my work seated. Thank you.